Hi everyone, this is Zeb. Thanks for joining this Iowa Balance of State Continuum of Care webinar for new and renewal grantees. We're going to get started in a couple minutes, but I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me. So if somebody could type into the chat box that you can hear me, I would really appreciate it. I've done enough of these now that I don't like talking to myself. So please, just somebody type in the chat box so I know that you can hear me. And we'll get started in a couple minutes. And just a reminder, this webinar will be recorded and available for you to review on the website. Hi everyone, this is Zeb McCallum. I am the chair of the Continuum of Care Committee for the Iowa Council on Homelessness, and you have joined the 2013 Iowa Balance of State Continuum of Care webinar application. Just want to check in and make sure that folks can hear me, so if I could please get somebody to type into the chat box on the webinar. Just a message letting me know that you can hear me, and then we'll get started here as soon as I get a message from somebody. Excellent. I see everybody is typing that they can hear me into the questions box, so that works too. I'm thrilled by that. Thank you so much, and thanks for joining us on this wintry, cold day. So, as you are all probably aware, the NOPA dropped on November 22nd, just before Thanksgiving. Today's webinar, we're going to be discussing this year's application, some of the changes to the application, some of the changes to the funding, and hopefully give you a little insight in preparing for the application. I promise Amber and all of you that I will be very brief today. We're going to cover a few quick things, and as I said before, this webinar will be recorded and placed on the Iowa Council on Homelessness's website, on the IFA website, for everyone to review. The one caveat, whenever I do any of these things, all of this information is based on our best understanding of HUD at the time, and HUD may change their minds. So, before starting the process, please review the FY 2013, FY 2014 NOFA, the CoC Continuum of Care Program Interim Rule, the 2013 CoC Unexpended Funds graph, the 2013 CoC Performance Chart, and the Balance of State 2013 New Renewal Application. Now you will notice that 3 of those are not hyperlinked, and they are not hyperlinked because they are not available yet. So they will be in a very short order. The 2013 Unexpended Funds Chart, Unexpended Funds spreadsheet will be posted on the Continuum of Care Committee's webpage. Will be posted anywhere else?
We can get it posted, yeah.
Okay. Both of these will also be included with Monday's release of the new application. But so the 2013 Unexpended Funds Chart, as folks may recall, last year we reallocated programs that we were not expending 100% of their CoC grants. We have put together a chart, thanks to the hard work of Josh and Amber here at IFA, showing all of the programs and their percentage of unexpended funds based on their most recent APR. Really would appreciate it if all the programs would take this chart, review it, make sure that you have the most up-to-date one. There's one currently posted that's a little out of date, but the one you get on Monday with the application, that'll be the most up-to-date one. So please review that one and let us know if it's accurate, if maybe we did something wrong. We just really want you to take a look at it and update it for us based on unexpended funds. And it's really important that we know sort of how funds are being expended currently, as we'll get to a little bit later in the webinar. So the second thing is the 2013 performance charts. This will also be included with Monday's release of the application. This is based on performance from your last year's APR. Again, this is another sheet. There will be one available for each program. We would really like you to review your performance sheets, and if you have any questions, clarifications that you would like to add to that sheet, please contact me or Amber right away. So those are the 2 additions this year that are going to go with the 2013 new and renewal applications that are going to be available for you on Monday. And I know that all of you are very eager to get that application in your hand, as the deadline is coming up very soon at an inconvenient time. And we'll get more into that in a little bit. Does anyone have any questions about those documents at this time? Just type into the questions box or into the chat box so that I know. All right, excellent. So a little bit on how we ended up here. Sort of as I talked about just a second ago, the application deadline for your initial application, I think most of you have seen in the announcement of this webinar, is going to be Friday, January 3rd. And that is very soon. And I just want to explain to everyone how this is not our fault. I want to make that very clear, that it is not IFA's or the balance of state or the continuum of care or any grantee's fault. This is the fault of those folks that decided to shut down the government in October. That IFA, HUD was on track to release this application a month ago, month and a half ago, so that everybody could get all their CoC ducks in order and enjoy a happy holidays. I think that HUD heard loud and clear last year that doing CoC applications in December is not very much fun. However, we ended up there anyway. The other thing that has impacted this application this year is the sequester. So in August 2011, the House and Senate and the President could not come to an agreement on a budget, and so in order to avert a government shutdown in 2011, they passed a bill that said that if they don't come to a budget deal in 2013, they're gonna, all of these automatic spending cuts are going to occur. So then, fast forward to January 13, they had not reached a budget deal, so Congress said, well, those automatic spending cuts that were going to occur, we're going to put them off for 6 months, or 3 months, until March. So March arrived, no deal arrived, the automatic sequester cuts went into place. That included cuts to the Continuum of Care program. On top of that, as I already mentioned, the government shutdown that occurred in October cost HUD and every other government agency around 16 days, working days of time to get this CoC application out. The reason why I wanted to talk a little bit about how we ended up here is because one of the things that, if it hasn't become evident to you, will become evident looking at this year's application, is that we are going to have to make some very tough, difficult choices about how continuum of care programs are evaluated and funded. There currently is not enough money available to continue to fund all of the continuum of care programs at the current level. Basically, due to sequester, we have a 5% cut to programs that we are going to have to implement. And this is on top of the cuts that we had to implement last year through reallocation. It's almost $300,000 in cuts that the continuum of care is going to have to absorb this year as we figure out how to refund programs. And given all of that, I want to point out to you that currently Congress, the members of the House and Senate are working on a budget. They have to have a finalized budget agreement by January 15th, but really it has to be before the end of this year because they only have 5 or 6 working days left. So I am not telling you to contact your member of Congress, whether it's Representative Latham, Representative King, Representative Braley, or Representative Loebsack, and tell them about the cuts. But I'm happy to provide anybody contact information if they should wish to do so. Changes from the previous year. So the other thing that has occurred in exhibit, you notice that it is the FY 2013, FY 2014 competition this year. That is because for the CoC application, this is the Exhibit 1, it's going to count for the next 2 years. I think HUD has sort of come to terms with the fact that Washington isn't working the way that it is supposed to be working, and that they're just going to combine these applications so that people don't continue having to fill out grants in December. That means that the information that you provide to us on your application to fill out the Exhibit 1 is extra important this year because it's going to have long-ranging impacts for the next 2 years. A little bit about the timeline. So as I mentioned, today is December 6th. The New and Renewal Project webinar is being conducted. Monday, December 9th, the application will be released along with those 2 documents I referenced, the spreadsheet detailing program expenditures as well as the performance outcomes for each program. Your application is due January 3rd to Amber Lewis by 4:30 p.m. submitted via email. On January 10th, the CoC committee will announce final tier rankings and reallocation amounts to make final recommendation to the Iowa Council on Homelessness. That council will consider the final consolidated application and project rankings and approve them or change them on January 17th. And then we will have to submit the final application for February 3rd. Does anybody have any questions about how we ended up here or about the timeline? All right, I'm seeing a few questions. This PowerPoint will be sent to you after the webinar. Also, this webinar will be archived and available on the IFA website. Great question. Does anybody have any other questions about the timeline? Great. If you have questions at any time, please just enter them into the chat. Renewal application scoring. This is a little different than last year, but there aren't any major changes. The renewal application, applicant experience and capacity will be 5 points. The budget will be 10 points. Participation in the Homeless Council will be 10 points. And making up the other half of the score will be 25 points for performance. So we have emphasized performance measures like never before. A large reason being for this because of the tiering and knowing that it is going to be very competitive. So really giving programs the ability to be judged on their impact above everything else. So performance measures are going to make up the majority of the score. The renewal application will have a total available points of 60 because we are also including a bonus for permanent supportive housing programs only that are willing to commit to, as their beds turn over, prioritizing those beds for chronically homeless. Essentially, as your beds turn over, you're putting chronically homeless individuals in those. The reason we're doing this is out of a recognized priority among committee members that chronically homeless have been underserved in the past, and to help meet the goals set out in the Opening Doors Plan and desires set out by HUD to end chronically homeless by 2015. The other thing that I'll say is that the other difference this year between renewal and the new application grants is that they are both going to be, both the renewal and new application grants, they're both going to be 50-point applications. And because there isn't otherwise going to be enough money available to fund any new projects this year due to cuts in sequestration. So that means that new projects will be competing directly against renewal projects for points. The only new projects that the committee will be considering this year will be new permanent supportive housing projects that are going to serve 100% chronically homeless individuals. These are the only new projects that the CoC is going to consider, but if we do receive applications detailing that, they will compete directly with any of the renewals when it comes to the Tier 1 ranking and points. Does anybody have any questions about the applicant, experience, budget, performance measures, and scoring? Just like last year, there is going to be a second section on the application. This is the balance of state community planning narrative. This narrative, like I said, is more important than ever before because it's going to count for both this year's and next year's competition. The information you provide us in the community planning narrative is what we use to complete the Exhibit 1 part of the CoC application. Every program is required to answer the questions on the community narrative. Tell us a little bit about your local planning group. One of the things, just because we know that programs don't have a lot of time and not wanting to add to people's burdens over the holidays, we will accept local CoC groups that are able to answer these questions as a group. You only need to submit one set of answers to us. In fact, we always appreciate when people are able to do that. So if you can answer these questions in your local planning group, that is much preferred. For programs that don't really have a local planning group, our expectation is that you will then provide answers to these questions. The questions are going to be different from last year's because HUD changed the application again. So please review the questions thoroughly and provide us good answers because we really need them to complete the rest of the application. As I said before, the sequestration is going to require the Council on Homelessness to implement another 5% cut to the annual renewal amount. Last year we were able to avoid any program cuts through the CoC competition by reallocating money from grantees that were expending less than the 80% of their total grant award. This year we cannot achieve the required reductions without reallocating basically 100% of the unspent funds or eliminating projects. There just is not the leeway in the grant amounts to allow us to achieve the cuts just through reallocation. This presents a huge challenge just because we know that sometimes issues arise for programs in spending all of their money, and we like to provide a cushion for folks. It's just at no other percentage than the 100% reduction do we make that 5% cut. And this is all reviewable on the budget sheet that I referenced earlier. So I would appreciate programs reviewing that sheet and taking time to make sure that it's accurate. Also, if individual programs have have comments to the committee about another way to achieve the 5% reductions in spending, please submit those to me for the committee to consider. The other option is to sort of move away from reallocation and into a just program elimination based on those performance scores. And I think that's something that the committee is open to. Also, if we go down this reallocation path again, we will be asking every program that has not fully expended their funds what they expect that they need, what their amount of funds they expect to expend in the next year, and we'll be trying to be flexible with that. But we literally only have a few $1,000s of flexibility to work with. So we're talking about if you're a program that's not currently fully expending your funds, looking at a cut of those funds. And to know the dollar figures on that, I'm just going to refer you to that sheet. Does anybody have questions about reallocation and the process? I know that I am a fairly articulate speaker, but I can't believe that I've explained this in such a way that folks don't have any questions. If you're not interested in asking questions via the webinar, please do email me or email Amber Lewis, and she'll pass your email on to me. I really want to make sure that everybody understands what the CoC committee is doing and proposing. I'm sure when the application comes out on Monday and you're able to review it, you'll have more questions then. But anyone that has questions now, please feel free to ask. All right, I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm going to continue with the webinar, but don't worry, you will have more opportunities to ask further questions to go along. So I mentioned that performance is going to make up half of the tiering this year, 25 points of the 50-point application. Hopefully everyone is familiar with these by now, but all of the different grantees are expected to meet specific performance targets, and every year HUD increases those performance targets with the expectation that systems to serve homelessness and meet the goals of opening doors are constantly improving. So this year's benchmarks that programs will be evaluated and required to meet for all projects, excluding HMIS projects, 38% of participants must have earned income or employment at exit, and 72% of participants must be accessing mainstream resources. That applies to permanent supportive housing projects, transitional housing, and supportive services only projects. Additionally, permanent housing, the expectation is that participants in permanent supportive housing are staying in the program for 6 months or longer. Transitional housing, 65% must exit to permanent housing, and additionally, because all of the CoC projects will be ranked against each other, that also includes performance benchmarks for HMIS. The HUD required benchmark is an overall bed coverage rate of 86% and less than 10% null or missing values support a given day in the universal data elements. So every single grantee, every single project within the CoC is going to be evaluated against their performance benchmarks. Another thing that I will say, and you'll be able to see this on the application, the performance measurements this year are weighted. That means that permanent supportive housing will have the most points available. Transitional housing will be less than that, and the supportive services will be less than that. And that'll be something that you'll be able to view on the application when it comes out on Monday. The reason for that weighting is specific to the priorities that have been identified by the Continuum of Care Committee in response to directions from HUD around the goals of opening doors. Does anybody have questions about performance? All right, I see a question. So the first question is about, is the income at exit only earned income, or can it be any type of income, i.e. child support, alimony, or disability, etc.? So that this is based off your APR sheet, and for the income employment category, that's really looking at employment. That's why the number is so low. And it looks like this is the same question too, again, asking about income at exit. So the focus is on employment, not on other sources of income. Thanks for the question. Obviously, looking sort of more broader at folks achieving housing permanency, any sort of income is vital and important to folks. It's just for judging performance that focuses on earned income employment. Other questions? Thanks, everyone. I promised to be brief, and I was. Please feel free to contact me or Amber Lewis or Josh McRoberts at the Iowa Finance Authority. I know you're very eager to see the applications. Those will be out on Monday, and they will be due January 3rd. So there's a question about bed coverage rates, asking about bed coverage rates, family size, impacts bed usage. Can this be unit coverage instead?
Oh, so this is a question about the performance for HMIS. Okay, this is the performance
This
for
is
HMIS
Amber Lewis,
in the application.
by the way. Just
Hello, I've just been listening in as well. That is only for a dedicated HMIS project. That's the only performance measure that we're looking at on HMIS for this application. Is that right, Ted?
Yes. So that's not a performance measure that's going to be applied to permanent housing or transition. That's a performance measure that will have to be addressed by the HMIS lead agency in their application.
And that's not to say that the whole CoC isn't responsible for that. That's just a particular scoring criteria for this process.
Exactly. And ultimately, HMIS web coverage, it impacts the overall CoC application, and the only way that we achieve it is through having everyone participate and work within their local communities to get folks to participate in HMIS. Another question asking to clarify the permanent supportive housing projects have to meet the 38% of the clients have employment at exit is correct. And yes, that's correct. And the key part of that 38% is at exit. One of the things that we know for permanent supportive housing is that really though that housing is for folks with multiple barriers to homelessness, and hopefully they aren't exiting permanent supportive housing without a strong support network around them. Both very good questions. Does anyone else have any questions? Well, thank you very much then. I'm going to wrap up today's webinar. That initial project application will be available on Monday, and you will be made aware of the project ranking before January 10th. And a reminder, just your applications are due January 3rd. One other important note that I wanted to make everyone aware of. So this just your initial application. So the application to the Continuum of Care Committee is going to be due January 3rd. Given everything that happens later this December with staff time and community time and holidays, we wanted to give agencies more time to complete the eSNAP portion of their application. So we aren't expecting folks to have their eSNAP application submitted until noon on Thursday, January 16th. It's just we need it by noon on Thursday, January 16th, so that the council can approve the entire application on the 17th. So you get an extra 10 days to complete the eSNAP application, which is I know, a much more intensive process than our little application questionnaire. So. All right. With that, I will say thank you very much, and I look forward to talking to you all soon. Thank you.